Welcome to the Lonely Table on the Sofa interview. Today we're on the bench of the St. James the Great church in Clapton, where we're doing a Bobby Hutcherson tribute with Orphy Robinson, which we're going to do a teaser for in a second. But we just thought we'd have a little chat with him about his music and what Bobby Hutcherson represents for him. So yeah, you've played with a lot of great jazz players as well as world music players, even though I don't really like the term. We've had Wynton Marsalis, Lester Young, Hugh Masekela.
Not Lester Young.
Not Lester Young.
No, Lester Bowie.
Lester Bowie, sorry.
Yeah.
Lester Young is another generation.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
But yeah, so all kinds of music. And so I read that you started off in a marching band, kind of carnival band.
That's right. Yeah, a local band in this area, actually, Hackney Lissington Youth Band, the Blues. And yeah, it was great formal training. We were sort of one of the best in that sort of category in the country. And through that I met people that I still play with now, like Claude Depper and Andy Grappy, who was in another version up in the north of England, West Bromwich. Yeah, great discipline as well, and that it led me to playing quite a few instruments, but I settled on the tuned percussion section. So that was with marimbas and xylophones and metallophones and all sorts of things.
Right. And did you learn, like, did you have like a teacher that showed you all the instruments, or you kind of picked it up?
No, you were, no, it was very structured, because this was the big boys. So each year you went in competitions all over the country and abroad in Europe. In England you would be at the Royal Albert Hall or Wembley playing in huge competitions and things. So yeah, it was very competitive and really good in your formative years, because a lot of the rudiments and things that I learnt at that time I still obviously use, because they made sure you had a solid foundation to build on. But yeah, no, I kind of morphed in, because the music was always there in the background, and I think it took sort of my parents sort of say, why are you pursuing other things when we always thought you were going to be a musician?
Oh wow, that's great.
So that was really nice of them, because I'd pursued the desk job type thing, and and the study and everything else, thinking that was the route that really you should take. But yeah, music took off. I was in a funk band that did very well in England, called Savannah, who was part of the Brit Funk thing.
That was before Courtney Boyd?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, because of the nature of the instrument, the vibraphone, marimbas, the main exponents of those instruments were people like Lionel Hampton and Milt Jackson and Bobby Hutcherson. So you kind of edged towards those people. And obviously I was a person that was going out clubbing as well, and enjoying lots of funk music at that time, and that's where Roy Ayers came into the picture as well. So you sort of end up collecting everything that everybody has played on, all the records, everything. And then one day I stumbled on this record called Daddy Bug and Friends that Roy Ayers had played on, where it was one of his solo albums, and there was Herbie Hancock and Tony Williamson, some really good players, and that kind of really got my ear, which meant then that I really had to knuckle down and really kind of get my playing together, not just sort of play the other side, which was the funkier sort of things, which was probably a bit easier on the ear. But I understood by listening to some great exponents like Roy Ayers, that they had obviously put in a lot of hard work to make it sound so effortless playing. And
you ended up doing some albums on Blue Note in the 90s.
Yeah, that was, having toured with Courtney around the world, and also Andy Shepherd, another saxophonist. I was doing sorts of various different projects and then writing. I put together a quartet, and it started getting quite a good following and getting a lot of press interest. Apparently, Blue Note had been following me around for a couple of years before they approached me. So that's a bit weird, because I feel like, people watching you. But anyway, yeah, they approached me, and I ended up doing 2 albums and 2 EPs on
Amazing.
Blue Note.
Must be quite a thing to be on the same league as all these predecessors like Bobby Hutcherson and well, all the Blue Note guys that were.
Well, to be in that library,
Yeah.
you know, of work and that body of work, you know, you're very aware that some incredible musicians have been on that label. And then when you tour around the world, it obviously opens doors as well. So yeah, I think it was a very fortunate time, and I was, you know,
Yeah.
just.
When I was talking on the phone with you about Bobby Hutcherson the other day, you said that you actually met him.
Yeah, I met him a couple of times. I mean, I was fortunate to meet Milt Jackson, Bobby Hutcherson, Lionel Hampton, and Roy Ayers, and they were all really, you know, lovely people to meet and to speak to. Very encouraging. In fact, Roy Ayers actually sung one of my pieces to me, so that was a bit strange. Yeah, and was very complimentary about things that I was doing. But it just made me really put my head down more and really kind of study more and just really, you know, get more into the instrument and playing and just, you know, kind of opening up more. So Bobby Hutcherson led me to Walt Dickerson, who was another, well, an absolute giant that not, you know, it was not as celebrated as some of the others, but technically was probably one of the most scary vibraphone players on the planet. And that led me to the more kind of, I would say, avant-garde type of music.
I was gonna say because you like all these guys that you've mentioned before, kind of more jazz, but then you also venture in all kinds of directions with Nigel Kennedy or Pat Thomas.
Yeah, you know, things like Nigel. Nigel had met me probably 10 years before I actually ended up playing in his bands and orchestra. He'd asked me then to talk with him, but I was busy doing lots of other things.
Right.
I mean, I was always very inquisitive about a lot of different styles of music. So wherever I would go, always wanted to kind of hear some of the local music and just experience that. And
you can tell like with the people you've played with, Robert Wyatt as well, and
yeah, Robert Wyatt and people like Don Cherry, and Lester Bowie, who was kind of like a mentor as well. I met him at Ronnie Scott's in the early 80s, and then he was just like really, every time we would come over, we would speak, and you know, I'd see him in festivals and things around the world, and it was just very complimentary. But I also liked that he was always expanding. He was always moving forward. So whether it was the art ensemble or his brass fantasy projects or whatever, it was always expanding. It was never you're going to know everything he's going to play, and that I think, you know, they're the kind of musicians that I've always been excited by.
Yeah. And the mentorship, it's interesting, the mentorship thing. I was talking with Theon and Nathaniel Cross and Moses Boyd about mentorship, and they were like, well, they were talking to me about it really. Is it Brentford or Winton Marsalis, the young one?
Yeah, Brantford is older than Winton.
Right, Winton, that's always, when he's in town, is always kind of really encouraging, but also doing that mentoring thing.
Yes, I mean, he was part of our experience as well because, you know, I saw him play at a festival, Nebworth, in the early 80s, and in that same crowd that had seen him play was Courtney Pine and Steve Williamson, quite a lot of the people who became jazz warriors later on.
Right.
And I think we were all inspired. I mean, I was fortunate to meet Winton the next day as well.
And so I've also read that you do quite a lot of mentoring yourself through different programs.
Yes,
so Empire, Hackney Community College.
That's true. And in fact, you saying sort of Moses and Nathaniel and that, I mean, I met all of them at quite young ages as well.
Right.
So it's good for me to watch all these new young musicians coming through because they're playing fantastically well and doing some really encouraging, you know, music. I've been a part of the Hackney Empire. I've stopped now, but the Hackney Empire is a local theatre that does musical theatre, and I did 15 years there, and a lot of musicians have gone on to do really good stuff. They're in, you know, popular bands like Rudimental, or, you know, on the telly winning competitions like The Voice and things.
That must be very gratifying.
It's been,
to help
because they've done you know, I mean, all we do is we just kind of shine a light on certain things and kind of just give them some pointers, but really it's them, you know. I can't really take the credit for them having that determination to keep going, and you know, and to do well. You know, I hope it continues. Lot of them.
One other thing I wanted to touch on is I've been a couple of times to this show, The Enlightenment, that you're doing with Paul Bradshaw.
Oh yes.
The John Coltrane
Yes.
reimagination.
Yeah.
How did this come about? Was it like yeah?
Yeah,
Tell us a bit
yeah.
about it.
I mean, obviously, I've been friends with Paul for many years, and we were always discussing different projects and things that you could do. And you know, one day, sort of Paul sort of said, you know, that we should definitely do something about this particular thing, because we were coming up to the Love Supreme sort of thing where it had been, you know, that album, iconic album, was going to be celebrated that next year, and because it was a landmark. And so we kind of, you know, went around. His idea was to put it into churches. So the idea was sacred music and sacred spaces. And it's always a pleasure. I wish it would do more. We just need more promoters to be, what's the word, to have more balls, to be courageous and put interesting things on.
There's a message for everyone out there.
That's right. Yes.
Let's do this, people. Amazing. Well, speaking of promoting and just a gig, so you've selected quite a few musicians for this Bobby Hutcherson tribute.
That's right. Yeah.
So who have we got on for this thing?
Okay, so we've got on alto saxophone Tony Kofi, a fantastic musician. I was looking at some of the music that Bobby Hutcherson had done, and he'd done some things with, say, Harold Land and Jackie McLean, and I immediately thought of Tony, you know, who's a great musician. But also I used to play in his project called the Monk Liberation Front. Okay. Which was, we did the 73 or 74 songs that Thelonious Monk had written. We did over 6 hours, I think, different musicians. Yeah, it was quite an incredible undertaking. Yeah, Tony did a great one there. And then we've got, well, for me, the top trumpet player in the country, Byron Wallen, who is just an incredible character as well as musician. And this was, Bobby Hutcherson had done quite a few things with Freddie Hubbard, and there's the, you know, the Keystone Corner things and all that. So I immediately thought of, you know, trumpet, it has to be Byron. No one else, unfortunately, is around. Roland Sutherland, he's going to take the place of James Newton, some of the pieces that they've done. And then we've got Robert Mitchell on piano, and yeah, Robert is fantastic. I've been listening to some recordings that
he's got some new stuff simmering at the moment.
Oh yeah, he's got that, and he's got some stuff that hasn't come out. There was a Jazz Warriors album that never came out, and it has some. I have the recording, and it has some people who've come on to be, you know, great musicians, like Tony Kofi and like Jason Yard and Robert Mitchell. There's a lot of incredible young musicians who are now older.
And now you've got also the young guys that are going to join in. So we've got
we've got Moses, and we've got Nubaya.
So have you played with these guys before?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, Moses I've known since he was younger.
Yeah, you said you were.
And Nubaya, in the last 2 or 3 years, she's been involved in some projects that we do. I run the Warriors International project with Cleveland Watkins, the vocalist, and we run a night called Freedom at one of the venues in Dalston. And we've put together an ensemble of young musicians who are coming from various different backgrounds, and Nubaya has been involved in that. But she was also involved in our AACM tribute last year.
Oh, was she?
Rich Mix, wow. She was fantastic.
She's great,
really good musician. And then Dudley Phillips on double bass. Dudley's been all over the world with me in all the different, played on both the Blue Note albums and various different things, and that fantastic, versatile musician on acoustic and electric. So
perfect. Well, it seems like you've got a good crew of people that you know well, and that you will be.
That's right.
To play with. So that's great.
Because the thing about approaching the music of such a fantastic exponent of the instrument like Bobby Hutcherson is that it's not a jam session. You have to have people who can actually play that music correctly, but also tell the stories with the music. And that, so when this opportunity came up, I thought, let's get the people that will work within this, and you will get that particular sound, and with respect as well.
Getting the structure right, so you can then be a bit free in improvisation, but then come back to the original piece.
And these are all people that you can trust. They're fantastic musicians.
I trust you, and so I trust your pick for the musicians and the tunes and everything.
Thank you.
Very much looking forward to this. Thank you very much. I think we need to make you jump on the on the
Yeah.
marimba for this little teaser. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
See you
Great.
guys on the 29th
Yeah,
of September.
see you on the 29th.